It's time for a brand new feature. Welcome to Dave's Book Club. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dave Musson, at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is the place where normally I talk to you about Stephen King, although from today we're starting something a little different. Do check out all the links to all of the things, as you know by now, or unless maybe you don't know by now, but have a look. I have a range of Stephen King themed band shirts, I have my own collection of short stories, I have a newsletter. They're all there. Check them out if you're interested. Now, this video, as I said, is the first in a new series, and it's the first of doing something a little different on my channel and trying to branch out a little bit beyond just Stephen King. And how am I going to do that? Well, you know already, with a book club. So my plan with the book club is simple: to give you a couple of times a week short reviews of books that I've liked and that I think you will like too. My plan is to give you lots of new releases, like we're covering in this video, but also ones that I'm only just getting round to. They might be a few months old, a few years old, a few decades old even. The key thing is, they're going to be books that I've enjoyed and that I am recommending to you as fellow fans of Stephen King and presumably of horror stuff. So each review will be spoiler free, but I'll try to give you enough of a sense of what's going on in the book to decide for yourself whether you feel like giving it a try. So each review will give you a synopsis of the book, a little bit about the author, my actual review of the book, and what I'll try and do as well is see if I can line it up to a Stephen King book, just to give you that frame of reference. And then I'll wrap up with some kind of grand closing remark. I should say I'm not going to do ratings on this, because by nature of me only picking books that I'm into and that I think you'll be into as well, they're all going to range in the sort of 3 to 5 out of 5 rating anyway, which is a good rating. So just know that, again, I think these books are worthy of your time. Okay? Did I mention already I'm planning on doing this a couple of times a week? I can't remember, but that's the plan. We'll see how far we get. I've got a few lined up to kick us off, and then we'll just see how we go. And let me know what you think of this feature in the comments. Do you like hearing me talk about authors that aren't Stephen King, and do you like having recommendations from a fellow Stephen King fan that I think other constant readers would like? Let me know. I'd be very keen to hear. It's a new feature. We'll work it out as we go along. But ultimately, I want to make something that is useful to you guys and that you enjoy. So let's see how we get on, shall we? So that's enough preamble. Let's kick off the book club with a brand new release. Comes out today if you're watching this video on the day it drops. It's Coup de Grâce by Sofia Ajram. So on to the synopsis first. Now, Coup de Grâce is the debut novella by Sofia Ajram, and the synopsis goes a little something like this. Vicon has a plan: throw himself in the St. Lawrence River in Montreal and end it for good, believing it to be the only way out for him after a lifetime of depression and pain. But, stepping off the subway, he finds himself in an endless, looping station. Determined to find a way out again, he starts to explore the rooms and corridors ahead of him. But no matter how many claustrophobic hallways or vast cathedral-esque rooms he passes through, the exit is nowhere in sight. The more he explores his strange new prison, the more he becomes convinced that he hasn't been trapped there accidentally, and amongst the shadows and concrete he comes to realise that he almost certainly is not alone. A terrifying psychological nightmare from a powerful new voice in horror. But while I'm reading stuff off screen, a little bit more about the author. So this is based on stuff I found on Goodreads and via Google. So Sofia Ajram is a multidisciplinary artist based in Montreal. They are a queer horror writer and the designer of Sofia Zakia jewellery. I also found out that they are a metalsmith and a literary horror writer who specialises in feverish stories of anomalous architecture and gay pining, which is a great combination. Sofia lives in Montreal with their cat Issa, and they've previously been the editor of Bury Your Gaze, an anthology of tragic queer horror, and they've featured in a couple of other collections, but this novella is their first standalone piece. So, there's your background. Let's get into a quick review, shall we? So I'll start my review off by saying I really loved the ambition of this novella, and I really liked the title as well. It's a very simple thing, but it really worked here. So Coup de Grâce, it literally translates as stroke of mercy, but it's basically that act of putting someone or something out of their misery. And that's what Vicken is looking for throughout this story, and it's worth bearing that in mind as you read it. So there's a confidence in the writing and the world building here that really drew me in very early on and kept me hooked for most of the story, particularly from the moment that Vicken gets off the train and is in that endless looping dead station. I was fully engrossed with it. Admittedly, I got a little lost in the prose sometimes, but that's more a reflection of me not reading as much literary stuff as clearly this author does and has the chops to write. Clearly, Sofia is a much higher caliber reader and writer than I am, and I have no issues with admitting that some of this went over my head, but it was still very nice to look at, and I really did enjoy the writing style. And it was nice to sort of push myself a little bit over the course of a novella rather than a full novel. All that being said, when it did hit, God, did it really hit. Some of the descriptions here were just so visceral, so haunting. It was like Clive Barker doing existential horror. Really sort of got under your skin, or it got under my skin anyway. Like, to the point where, even though I, as I already said, didn't necessarily grasp everything that was going on here, it was so gut-wrenching and so damned affecting that I just couldn't put it down at parts. So there's a particular scene where Vicken enters a particular room through a gap in a wall, and yeah, that room is just nightmare fuel. Like, I had to just sit down and think about other things for a while after reading that scene. And then later on, I really like how Sofia brings in a sort of creepypasta urban legend thing around a game to play in an elevator. And genuinely, when I was reading that bit, I could feel my heart thumping because the way Sofia built tension in that, and you just didn't know what was going to happen. Really enjoyed that scene in particular. Now, there's a very definite reason why I picked this particular title to kick off the book club. There are two reasons, actually. First is that it is out today, as I've already mentioned, 1st of October, if you're watching this on the day that this video drops. But second, I didn't actually love this novella all the way through. And I'm still not entirely sure what I think of it. I know that broadly I liked it, but I wanted to start off with something that I wasn't completely raving about, because I think it's a really interesting offer to the horror space. And I think if it clicks for you, you're going to absolutely love it. My issue is that towards the end of this book, a choice was made, a tactic was used in the writing. And for me, it didn't work. It threw me in a way that wasn't effective. And even though the rest of the writing was still enjoyable, this particular choice I'm not going to spoil, because I had it spoiled by reading a review and it was a bit frustrating. It just threw me. But like I say, if it clicks for you, I think it will really, really click. And I'm not here to criticize it. I fully endorse, again, the ambition and the boldness of this author to make that choice and go with it. More power to them, absolutely. It wasn't for me, but I still think the overall piece is a really creative and stunning piece of just mind-bending horror. And in a way that will worm its way at you. It's not a big jump scare book. It's very much this is going to slowly put its claws in you and dig and dig and dig and get under your skin and get into your head. So yeah, that's why I wanted to throw it in here. So I was wholly impressed. And even though it didn't all work for me, I'm trying to be as objective as possible and say this is a terrific debut. So I promised you that I would try and align these books to a King book for that point of reference for you. Kind of made it very difficult for myself in the first one here because King has not written anything like this. But I've promised you reference points, so I will try and give you at least some. I guess the starting point from a King point of view would be where he's been more literary and maybe even a bit cosmic. So some of the stuff in Revival, particularly the Booyah Moon stuff in Lisey's story, they're probably good frames of reference. And some of his short stories like Crouch End or The Dreamers, although I should stress that Coup de Grâce is not Lovecraftian, but it's that kind of undescribable horror. That's probably a useful point for you. But, why not just give it a try anyway? So to sum up, more than anything, I would recommend giving this one a go, just to challenge yourself. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I have no idea what you read. You might well be a far more literary and superior reader than I am. But I certainly enjoyed the challenge of reading it. It was out of my comfort zone and made me incredibly uncomfortable reading it. And like I've already said, I think there's a chance that if it clicks with you, you will absolutely adore this. You may well not like it at all, and that's fine. It's a novella. It won't take you long to read. You may also be like me and really like it up to a point, and you may not get along with that particular choice. But I absolutely think there is enough artistic worth in this novella that if you're a fan of horror, you should definitely give it a try, particularly if you want to hear from a new voice, a new story, a new kind of just messing with your head. This is a great one. And it's out right now in hardback and ebook via Titan Books. And I should say a huge thank you to Titan Books for sending me an advance copy so I could review it for you. So there we go. First choice of the book club done. Let me know what you think of this one. If you're going to check it out, if you do, come back and let me know how you get on. But otherwise, I will see you again very soon for another book club choice.